Okay. Live?
Yep.
All right. Welcome to the Gruber Motor Company Gruber Morning Show, pre-show. I'm Pete Gruber. We're bringing on some of the other platforms now, but those of you that are seeing me right now are getting an early view. Again, we appreciate you guys coming to join us for these podcasts, and if you want to get the full experience on YouTube, switch over to YouTube and look for Gruber Motors, and you'll see probably more than a green screen behind me. Got a lot to cover this morning. We'll be entertaining questions, and as always, let us know where you're from. Our viewers are often fascinated by the global response we're getting to these podcasts, and there are people all over the planet that are tuning in.
Okay, you got about 25 seconds.
Okay, before we go live on YouTube.
I'll count you down to 1 and then give it another second, and then you can start.
Okay.
So don't pay attention to this countdown, because it's going to be delayed.
I'm going to be listening for your countdown.
Alright. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Welcome to Gruber Motor Company and the Gruber Morning Show. I'm your host, Pete Gruber, and we're going to cover some EV topics and alternative energy topics today. We've changed our studio a little bit, so I've got more visuals here. I'm starting to see what's being streamed. And the image behind me, by the way, we try to feature one of the photographs in my collection each podcast. This is Phoenix, Arizona. This is a shot taken at Campbell Mountain, and we live in a pretty unique and special place. Lots of red rock like what you see here, and it's just a gorgeous place except for July, August, and September when we get really brutal hot temperatures. The rest of the year is just absolutely wonderful. We've got our friends today from TikTok, YouTube Shorts, Facebook Shorts. I probably lose track of all of them, but anyway, welcome. Any of you that want to get the full experience, including the green screen backdrop, go over to YouTube at Gruber Motors. And today, one of the things I wanted to cover with everyone was there's been a lot of talk about the Cybertruck. You know, when is it going to be released? Are they really working on it? When will my reservation turn into an actual Cybertruck? Bit of news here, a company called IDRA Group announced that it finished building and testing a 9,000-ton gigapress. Now get your head around that number, 9,000 tons. That's an enormous amount of pressure. And apparently, this is a company that makes large production equipment, die-cast equipment, or a gigapress. And it is the first to build large machines like this designed for the automotive market. They've been making the largest machines in the world now for some time, but for other markets apparently. This 9,000-ton gigapress arrived in Texas just a week or so ago, and it will be deployed at the Tesla Gigafactory to make none other than the Cybertruck. Now, let me explain what this means. A die-cast press like this essentially is capable of taking non-ferrous metals, aluminum, copper, not steel, and injecting them into molds. So what they're going to make with this large 9,000-ton press is the frame and the body parts on a Cybertruck. This is infinitely less expensive doing injection molding like this than trying to machine parts of this size or this complexity. So it looks like we're getting closer to actually having the Cybertruck released and having some product start hitting the streets. Um, there are 54 pieces in this machine that weigh a total of 77,000 kilograms. It's a lot of weight. And some information about the company, IDR Group. Did a little research here. Apparently, this is an Italian company, and they have been making equipment like this for more than 70 years. It was founded by the Pascati family in 1946 and has since become the reference point for development of die casting technology. And it looks like they're going to be fairly busy because this production process will save an enormous amount of money to make EVs or cars of any type for that matter. And it will definitely reduce the cost and make this company's product very popular with the other EV manufacturers as well. We've got a YouTube person joining us, Lee Eckhart. Good morning, Lee. YouTube Shorts, we've got Mustafa Taher. He's following us from Jordan, and he watched most of our videos. He's a big fan. Well, thank you for joining us, Mustafa. Have a visitor coming in from TikTok, Joe Smith. It makes me giga happy to think about it. He's talking about the Cybertruck. Yeah, there are a lot of people that are going to be excited once this truck hits the roads and becomes available and is released. We've got another image here, and I wanted to bring up the Aptera vehicle. We've had a lot of questions about this vehicle, and I'm becoming more impressed the more research I do. Aptera, of course, is a three-wheeler, and it is a solar vehicle. Do we have an image to pop up, guys? I'm not seeing it yet. Oh, there is a delay.
Give me 1 second.
Okay. So staying with that theme for a moment here, the Aptera is a three-wheeled EV.
It's up there now.
All right, perfect. And by the way, I didn't introduce Bob. Bob is my co-pilot, and my wife pointed out that he's got an aviator's hat. Well, the reason for that is because he is a co-pilot. So Bob is my silent partner, and next week we're going to have another gentleman join us as co-host, and you'll get to meet Zane next Tuesday morning. So Aptera, it's a California-based startup, pretty futuristic-looking vehicle, three-wheeler, and the company has already locked down more than 27,000 reservations. I think currently, this is probably old information, they're up to 30,000 for this sleek three-wheel machine. They also went through a crowdfunding effort that netted in the company a healthy $40 million to, of course, continue working toward production goals. Companies that are small like this can't go through an IPA or an IPO initially. So to infuse the company with the capital it needs to develop a cool product like this, crowdfunding is one of the new ways of creating some capital to help keep the company alive and healthy. So the cost of this vehicle is projected to be under $20,000, and of course making it highly affordable. And that's, of course, as they say, if it makes the rare and difficult jump from prototype to production. Some additional statistics about this car. They have signed a partnership now with a solar EV manufacturer called Maxion Solar Technologies. And they are supplying now the cells and the solar bricks for this vehicle. This vehicle actually has a surface of solar cells, and amazingly enough, there is enough charge in those solar cells, or provides enough charge, for a 40-mile commute with this vehicle. Considering that most, or the average commute for anyone in America at least, is 29 miles, it's possible that this car, if you own one, may never need to be charged, especially if you live in Phoenix, Arizona. The company has been quite transparent in its progress. They're still in development mode, of course, in a 130,000 square foot facility in Vista, California. And they are staying in touch with their growing number of reservation holders and fans alike with video updates at least once a month. That's a good strategy. Keep your potential customers excited and updated on how your progress is going as you move from prototype to production. We have a YouTube visitor, Alex Winslow. Hello, Silent Bob. He's talking to my co-host here. You know, it'd be cool is if I had ventriloquist skills and I was able to make him talk, but I haven't really gotten to that point yet.
Not there yet.
What we were thinking of doing was, to spook a few people, was Richard had pointed out what we should do is take some fishing line or floss, tie it to his hand and raise it every once in a while. But now that I've let the cat out of the bag, it won't be a surprise.
You just broke the illusion.
Yeah, exactly. The illusion is broken. He does move, by the way. All right, YouTube. As Steve, I hope this thing does well and makes it to market. You know, you and me both. A car like this not only looks cool, but is definitely revolutionary, because everything else that we have in the EV world today, you have to plug in and you have to charge, and it consumes some energy. This car is a closed loop system. It uses free energy from the sun and it moves you around. So this should be the future. All right, the Tesla semi-truck. That's another vehicle on Tesla's development list that everyone is curious about and wants to see on the streets. The Tesla Semi, let's talk about the batteries that go into this large beast. There's already a cell production problem or limitation. It takes a lot of cells to make EVs, and Tesla has long faced the problem: too much demand and too little supply. No other car maker on the planet can say that there are multi-month and sometimes year-long waiting lists for every vehicle they manufacture. Part of the delays are batteries, making them quickly enough and making, to supply the cars. Well, this Semi, which has now been projected to be available or released by the end of this year, 2022, may actually exacerbate the already oversupply constrained problem with cells. So let's break down the numbers. Why is that the case? How many cells will this large truck need? Well, Tesla's 4680 cell, and that's the large soup can size cell, they have an energy capacity of 98 watt hours. There are 828 of these cells needed to make a single Tesla Model Y with an 81 kWh battery pack, which is standard run-of-the-mill battery packs. I mean, the Model S went from 40 kW up to 100 kW. So can we project from this data how many cells will be required in a Tesla Semi? Well, the maximum range of one of these Tesla Semis is projected to be around 500 miles, and it's going to use under 2 kWh per mile. So assuming a worst case scenario where the truck uses exactly 2 kWh per mile for 500 miles, this Tesla Semi would have to have a battery capacity of 1,000 kWh. To put that in perspective, that's like 12 Model Ys in one vehicle.
I put that image up there, if that's all right.
We have the image, perfect, yes. It is a formidable beast, and so at 1,000 kWh, or 1 million watt hours, this would require 10,204 Tesla 4680 cells. And that is based on the number of cells of 828 to make a single Tesla Model Y. So you can see this is going to be a power-hungry or a supply chain constrained product once this comes out. And of course, Tesla and all the other manufacturers are feverishly working on developing more batteries and trying to solve that supply chain problem. We have a YouTube visitor, Mitchell Barno. He's greets us. He says, good morning, everyone at Gruber Motors. Thank you, Mitchell. YouTube visitor coming in, Azer White. He says, what about when there's no sun? What about when the sun blows up? Can you drive at night? Well, good questions. When there's no sun, there's still some sun. I mean, look at Germany, for example. They seem to be the solar capital of the world. If you see solar cells, they're on most houses. It's just amazing what they can do with the limited amount of sunlight that they have. Next question is, what about when the sun blows up? I think we have like 93 million years or something like that before it turns into a red star and begins to diminish in terms of its output of energy. But remember, we have Elon Musk, who is preparing us to colonize other planets. So it'll definitely have to be out of the solar system, because if our sun blows up, then we're going to have to go to some other galaxies and find some other suns to continue to drive your Aptera. Question, can you drive at night? Well, you'll be limited to 40 miles at night. And then, of course, you can always plug in. It turns out that the car charges at 120 volts. And here's another amazing statistic about this car. Because it's so small, it actually charges faster at 120 than most of the other EVs that are available right now. So this will be quite a car. Does anybody know what the down payment for that Aptera is? If it's anything like a Cybertruck at $100 a pop, that may be worth just simply getting a reservation and then deciding whether you want to get one. One of these days we're going to have fact checkers that are going to be watching and Googling stuff like this, just like Joe Rogan and his organization. We have a Instagram comment.
It is $100 speed.
It's $100. There you go, for a reservation for an Aptera. You know, I might sign up for one of those today. Sorry, Tesla. I am into EVs and not just Tesla. Instagram, Took It Today is asking, did you cover the flooded Teslas in Florida? Are they exploding? We did not cover that, and that was brought up, I believe, in the last podcast as well. Flood damaged cars, we're pretty familiar with those, and we bought bunches of them out of Texas and Florida in 2017. And at that time, we did not have any issues we were aware of with any flood damaged cars that were catching fire. This may be a new phenomena, but typically the flood damaged cars, at least EVs and Teslas in particular, are sealed pretty well. And it's not often that you get water ingress into the pack. Now, of course, if the pack is underwater for a couple of weeks, there's probably ways that the water can find its way into that pack. The question screen, by the way, guys, the font went real tiny, and my eyes aren't able to read that. So we'll fix that here in a second. So we've got another image to pop up here, and this is the perfume one. I thought this was a gag at first when I first saw it on Facebook, but apparently Tesla, through the Boring Company, and of course Elon, has now become a perfume salesman. And he teased a new fragrance, coined it Burnt Hair. And while it was obviously part of a joke, the Boring Company now actually began to sell reservations for this perfume in large numbers. And they sold, now get this, 10,000 bottles so far at $100 a pop, which puts the revenue stream at $1 million. And we're not sure about actual profits, it says, but as Elon pointed out, he said, with a name like mine, getting into the fragrance business was inevitable. Why did I even fight it for so long? Good point, Elon. So the perfume, if we can call it that, has been described as the essence of repugnant desire. And it's just like leaning over a candle at the dinner table, but without all the hard work. Is our image up for that perfume?
No, yeah, let me pull it up.
All right, we're working on it. Now, this isn't the first time that Elon has sold weird stuff. You gotta admit. Do you remember the flamethrower? He called it the not a flamethrower. And it was a working flamethrower with the ability to singe hair and burn things. And it retailed for $500. And at the time, we all thought it was a joke, but they sold 20,000 of those. And some crazy people on eBay were listing them for as much as $1,000 a pop.
Okay, we got it up.
And there it is. We've got our burnt hair perfume bottle. No one yet has actually reported opening one of these perfume bottles to see what the fragrance is like. And that, of course, will be the next viral experience. It looks like this burnt hair perfume is still available, and despite that, people are starting to sell it on eBay for as much as $1,000 a pop. Keep in mind that this product, even if you buy some at $100 a pop, if you can still find it, it won't arrive until next year, so you've got a long wait. It may arrive with your Cybertruck. And the interesting thing will be is whether this scent appeals to everyone. Do we have our questions up yet, Richard?
Yeah, the font is the same as it was. We don't have any further questions.
Okay, all right. I was looking at the upper portion there where we've got some tiny font. Just to give you an idea of what I'm talking about, I've got flat screens that are about 15 feet in front of me here, and that's where the questions pop up. Until our technology improves, I can't get the questions to pop up yet on my laptop, which is where I keep my reminders, what the content for the show is. By the way, just to give you guys some perspective, if you're interested, this studio that we're in was actually designed to be our employee kitchen. We had grown so much that we ran out of space for people to eat. So we began building this just before COVID, and we're almost done with it, and then COVID hit. And then we decided, you know what, since no one knows how this pandemic is going to end up and what financial impact it has, we did the responsible thing and we halted expenditures for what at that time was superfluous construction or an addition like this. And so this space sat. And then our social media team came along about a year or so ago and said, you know, we really need to do something more than just walk around Gruber Motor Company with cameras in amongst the cars doing videos. We need a studio space. So that's what we're developing and building here. And it changes every week. One of these days we'll invite you guys in and we'll show you the infrastructure here so you can see what I see as I'm looking out, including Bob here, which is of course visible to everyone. Instagram question from 9K2JW. Hi, Mr. Gruber from Kuwait. Welcome. That's a long ways away. Interestingly enough, Kuwait is one of those places where the EV manufacturers could test their cars for extreme heat, as is Abu Dhabi and Dubai. We have a TikTok question streaming in right now from WVMTN. What's your opinion on electric school buses? There already are some out there circulating, and I don't remember the name of the company. That was the other part of his question. But you know, any of these mass transit type transportation devices benefit much better from an EV type platform. Here in Phoenix, we have what's called a light rail, which they installed about 10 years ago or so. And it's the equivalent of the old city subway systems. This light rail is 100% electric. I'm always fascinated when I drive downtown in a Tesla Roadster, and here's my big brother next to me pulling legions of cabins full of people, all with electricity. All right, we have a company here in, or there is a company in China. This is another image we want to bring up, guys. XPeng. And they are a EV car manufacturer, but they have actually created their first electric flying car. It's called the XPeng X2, and they showcased it at Skydive Dubai just recently. This was the first public display after completing the operations risk assessment and achieving a special flying permit from the Dubai Civil Aviation Authority.
I'm sorry, Pete, which image is this, the flying car?
It is the flying car, should be number 3, I believe. So over 150 people witnessed the demonstration flight, which took place on the opening day of the JITEX Global Technology Show at the Dubai World Trade Center. Now, before you get too excited, this basically looks like a large drone, and it merely hovered a bit during this demonstration. But it opens up a host of new possibilities, as they are describing here. They see that or they foresee its application being low altitude city flights, especially short distance journeys such as sightseeing or medical transportation. We're using helicopters for that right now. This would be a lot quieter and a lot less pollution generating. So again, it is a company called Xpeng Aeroht, A-E-R-O-H-T, and they describe themselves as the largest flying car company in Asia. And this is their X2 two-seater flying car. Now there's something that Tesla may be able to be inspired with. Knowing Elon, he's always looking for ways to find new applications for his Tesla EV technology. We have a LinkedIn question. Welcome, LinkedIn. I think this is the first time that our podcast is streaming on your platform. It's a question from Frank Lutz. With surging commodity pricing and fear of supply disruptions from Russia, where do we see nickel and cobalt headed in terms of future cost structure? He also says, keep doing amazing work in the space. Thank you, Frank. You know, we in the last podcast, we talked about this a bit. What's exciting right now and on the forefront is the closed loop recycling effort with lithium-ion battery technology, spearheaded by none other than J.B. Strobel with Redwood Technologies. And they are currently under construction for a second plant, which is going to have a zero waste stream. Now that's pretty remarkable. Even at your home, you've got some waste stream, the garbage that gets picked up every week by the garbage truck. This is a closed loop system that will supply and feed product, raw materials, back to the same companies that are generating the scrap in the first place. And things like lithium, cobalt, copper foil are easily recyclable and reusable over and over again, not just once or twice, but virtually endlessly. It's kind of like the lead acid batteries that began to be responsibly recycled decades ago. Lead is no longer virgin lead. It is recycled many times. And even the plastic case that the battery comes in can be recycled, at least repurposed into other applications. So we foresee that this global disruption in many supply chain pockets will be offset by initiatives like this closed loop recycling system that Redwood Materials and other companies are embarking on. We have a YouTube question from Warren Raven. He's from Vextrex in South Carolina. You should help them out with some tips to make go-karts faster. 115 miles an hour this Saturday. Well, Warren, if you went 115 miles an hour in a go-kart, I'm very impressed. That took a lot of guts. It kind of feels like driving a Tesla Roadster, although the top speed on that is only 130 miles an hour. We have a YouTube question from Nulvers3. As better battery technology evolves so rapidly, and as alternatives to lithium-ion present themselves, how easy would it be to swap a lithium-ion car battery for a new technology? Well, we began working on that earlier this year with a graphene project that we were invited to participate in, and the goal there was to create a graphene battery solution that would actually plug and play with a Tesla Model S. We ran into some engineering problems, and the project, for us at least at this point, was shelved. We did invite Tesla to participate, but we haven't heard back yet, but I can't imagine they're not working on exploring some of these new technologies. To answer the question, the future will definitely be battery alternatives rather than just from the OEM. And just like in the ICE vehicle business, you can get an engine from virtually anyone. You don't have to go to Ford or GM. There are crate engines and drivetrains and upgraded transmissions that are available for ICE vehicles. The same will be true with EVs. At this point, though, the EV manufacturers are pretty much focused on developing product, and they're not that much focused on aftermarket products like this. From Santee, California, by the way, that was Nalbers 3. Welcome. So we talked about the Rivian recall last week. They are recalling virtually every vehicle that they have released, about 13,000 of them. And as we discussed, you know, recalls are always painful for manufacturers. It's not only expensive, it's a loss of reputation. It is a hassle for the owners who have to either take their vehicle to a service center, get a loaner, or in this case at least, some of these are being fixed right at their homes. So I have some feedback from a Rivian owner, Anna Muni, who took to LinkedIn to share her experience with the recent recall. So here's a testimonial. She said, the automaker recalled 13,000 vehicles after it was discovered a minor structural defect existed in the steering system. It may not have been sufficiently torqued. They added that the recall was done out of an abundance of caution. Again, this speaks to the Rivian's willingness to solve their problem and err on the side of caution. In the statement from Rivian, they emphasized that the safety of its customers will always be their top priority, and they said they would make all necessary adjustments free of charge. In her post now, Anne said that she had no issues with her Rivian R1T prior to any of these issues, and she appreciated the automaker for being proactive. She got her recall email sent on a Friday. She was out of town. The email was sent to all owners prior to any NHTSA posting, so that the owners got the information directly from Rivian rather than from the news. She then called for service the following day, which was Saturday or Sunday when she got back Saturday, so Sunday. And they had set an appointment for her later in the week with a mobile service unit to resolve the problem. So she doesn't even have to leave her home, and the appointment, they said, should take about 10 minutes. She also added, she says, overall, she's been very impressed with the courtesy and response that Rivian has provided. And let's be honest, every car company goes through recalls at some point. It's the quickness and the quality of response that Rivian has provided that is yet another mark of quality for me. So hats off to Rivian for handling this recall equitably without too much problem for the owners. We have an Instagram statement from 60S Ratrod. Like the channel, great content. Well, thank you. And where are you from? 60s Ratrod? Maybe we'll see that pop up here in a second. All right, we have another picture we want to post up here. And this is a picture of an ultrasonic sensor. So it looks like Tesla is going to save an estimated $114 per car by removing ultrasonic sensors and switching over to Tesla Vision. The cost breakdown was an analysis done by Monroe's Live, Mike Lane. And it said Tesla announced that by replacing its ultrasonic sensors with Tesla Vision, they will be doing this for Model S and Model Y vehicles. They found that with today's software, this approach gives autopilot, which has spatial positioning capability, longer range visibility, and ability to differentiate between objects. So these ultrasonic sensors really aren't necessary anymore. It's interesting what the cost analysis is at $114, because there are quite a few in a car. I think there are like 7 in the front bumper and maybe an equal number in the rear bumper and on the side of the bumpers. When we were first repairing flood damaged cars, we ended up with one of those sensors being defective, and it was before we had accumulated any parts. And I remember sending that to the Tesla Service Center and getting an ultrasonic sensor, and I'm pretty sure we paid over $140 for that little sensor. So based on that cost, removing 10 or 15 sensors could be substantial. But it looks like the cost has come down quite a bit. According to Monroe Live, they said that their estimate on the sensor cost is about $8. And then of course you have a wiring harness underneath or behind the bumpers, which is an additional cost. Do we have a picture of that ultrasonic sensor?
Yeah, it's up right now.
Okay, perfect.
It'll come up in a second.
You can see this is a little gizmo, and what it does is it detects objects and lets you know whether you're getting too close to a curb, a wall, another car, a bumper. So it looks like Tesla will be reducing the cost of some of their vehicles with all of these savings. But again, it is a new application by using something that's already in the car and has evolved to the point where it obsoletes these little sensors. Just to give you some perspective, I should have laid a quarter next to that. A quarter would be about the same size as this little sensor. All right, guys, I am out of content. Do we have any final questions that we want to ask?
Yeah, I got a question for you, Pete.
Okay.
This one that we kind of get a lot. When rather do you think shops like GMC will proliferate throughout the world?
All right, shops like ours proliferating. There are some constraints. Staffing is the biggest one. Infrastructure is fairly simple. With enough money, you build out your shop, put in lifts. In our case, we have to develop custom test equipment for the Tesla Roadsters, for example. There's nothing off the shelf, and that's an ongoing project. But the rest of it is fairly simple. It's the manpower problem. It's finding people that can actually do the work. And it's exacerbated in our case because in independent maintenance, we don't have the luxury of just simply having module swappers that can go up to a car, use a process of elimination, and swap things until it's fixed. Now, I don't mean to denigrate what the OEM service centers do. There's infinitely more complexity than what I just described. But the point I'm trying to make here is that in the independent space, we do not have a cache of parts available that we can swap into the cars. And in the case of a Tesla Roadster where the parts are obsolete and no longer available, you actually have to chip chase and component level troubleshoot. So we have to open everything up. We have to chase it down to the component, including the large battery packs. So finding people that are able to do that level or that deep dive repair is the biggest barrier to replicating and scaling the type of work that we do here in Phoenix.
So I got a question about that though. At what point do you think there's going to be so many EVs on the road that we have to find a solution to that problem? Because I'm not sure what people do now, even quite frankly, when they're faced with issues, out of warranty type stuff like what we do. There's going to come a point though where there's so many EVs, we have to have a solution, right?
That is correct. It is painful for a lot of out of warranty owners presently to try to get their cars repaired. While the cars are under warranty, the major hurdles there were scheduling. The Tesla service centers get very busy, and it may be a week or 2 or 3 before you can get your car in there. And if it's something benign like your rear window doesn't roll down, you can live with that for 3 weeks. They would prioritize, however, the cars that were off the road or dead or completely inoperable. I have an opinion about how this is going to go because I don't think that the independent space is going to be able to scale quickly enough based on the amount of production forecasts for EVs hitting the roads. I think that the logical solution to this is going to be AI in the cars. It's going to be smart cars, to borrow a term from Daimler, that are actually able to self-diagnose and alert the service centers, or in this case, in Tesla's case, the mothership, and alert the mothership as to whether there is a part available for something that is failing in the car. So you've got a self-diagnosing capability. You then have the ability with full self-driving for a loaner to be dispatched to that owner's house. And an interesting scenario would be the car realizes that something is failing. The owner does or doesn't have to know about it. And a car is then dispatched, or the failing car drives itself to the service center once the service center says, I have the part. And the loaner has already been dispatched to the owner's house. And when he gets up in the morning, he's got a loaner that he's able to drive. Although it sounds futuristic, I think this is the future. We're going to have to make the car smarter, self-diagnosing. The tools and mechanisms for making what I just described realistic already exist. But again, there's 780,000 mechanics in the United States currently. Them pivoting to repairing EVs is not feasible based on the length of time it takes to learn and the amount of EVs that will be on the roads. So that's my prediction.
I think you're being prophetic there, which is cool. We'll see 10 years from now, all this AI taking care of all this stuff for us. That might not, necessarily be the best for our company, but we do have a couple questions that came in if you want to read those.
Sure.
About that.
All right, we've got a TikTok question. Whoop, that one went away. TikTok from Fabiolust. Do you sell vehicles, I'm assuming? Not really. Any vehicles that we end up buying and restoring, we put into a lease program for recurring income, and that helps fund the operations. Eventually, though, I think we are going to be buying and selling vehicles. Now, having said that, if you go to our website, Gruber Motors, we have a Tesla Roadster matchmaking service, which is completely free. And those wanting to sell their Tesla Roadster and make sure that it gets into good hands, and they want to be able to talk to the prospective buyers and have us on tap for tech support questions, both for the buyer and seller. This is a free site, and if you have a Roadster, you can post it, we will list it for you, and the listing runs until sold. It's not like an auction where you get a 2-week expiration date, and you may end up having to buy your car back unless you have a reserve on it. Have a question here from YouTube, Steve. How are you guys looking at Model S battery repairs and upgrades? Seems like recently more and more 2013s and 2014 cars, and 2012s by the way, are failing. I recently had my 2014 60 kWh begin to get charge limit errors. What we're seeing is not yet end-of-life type failures, because eventually these battery mass cylindrical cell battery packs are going to go through a mass failure. We're seeing aberrations, resistive cells, some water ingress, some chips on one of the BMB boards, battery management boards, went defective. So that's the type of repair that we're currently seeing. Once these get to mass cell failures, then of course your only solution will be a battery pack replacement. But everybody asks, when will that happen? The Tesla Roadster is the only benchmark we have, and they came out in 2008. Some of them are still going strong in 2012, going on 14 years now. And that is really the benchmark, because that same cell, that 18650 lithium-ion cell, is what's in the later Model S's. Have a question from LinkedIn, Frank Lutz again from Phoenix. Would the GMC business model
Gruber Motors,
yeah,
it means.
Also include training for future talent? You know, we train daily. Whenever we hire we don't what they call mechanic, technician, engineer. They fulfill 3 roles. There's constant training taking place. We also have interns that join us. And yes, training is very much part of that, but it is not a quick, the learning curves are long, in other words. YouTube question from My Melt. Has your shop had experience with Model S? And our screen
Yeah, let me scroll down
editor.
there. Wait, you can read the top one first, actually.
Okay, let's do the top one. From Mitchell Barnow from YouTube. Tesla is also rumored to have switched to better cameras from a different supplier. This might have been mentioned on Monroe Live. I hear better product is consistently being inserted into the Tesla, so this doesn't surprise me. I just don't have the particulars on this particular issue, a different camera supplier. But it's any manufacturer's goal to continuously upgrade, improve, and find more efficient and better product. Okay? Now we can read the YouTube question from My Melt. Has your shop had experience with Model S and Model X front control arms wearing out prematurely? Well, prematurely is a subjective term. These are fairly new products, and I don't know if there's any sort of a benchmark set yet. The traditional control arms, of course, were steel. And a lot of the suspension components in the newer EVs, like the Teslas, are aluminum. I'm not aware of any kind of an anomaly regarding early wear and tear on the suspension in the Teslas. The only thing that we are aware of is the motor mounts, the drivetrain cradles in the back. With spirited driving, the motor mounts tend to snap and crack and even have cracks in the structure itself, which is one of the things that we not only repair with a TIG welder, but we also improve the design by installing gussets, for example, on the motor mounts to make them stronger for those spirited drivers. Have a YouTube question again from Mitchell Barnow. My Model 3 is out of its 4-year warranty, and I'm a bit worried about the future without Gruber Motors in San Francisco Bay Area. You know, we get asked this question often. For those that are risk averse, trading in your vehicle before it gets out of warranty is a much safer way to go. Once that vehicle is out of warranty, there are some very expensive things in an EV. And you can roll the dice and, you know, drive it carefully and see if you luck out. But yeah, for those of you that are concerned, I would say trading them in as they leave warranty. Eventually, I think there will be a whole cottage industry of aftermarket warranty support for these vehicles. So there's a great business idea for someone out there. Have a question from YouTube, Nolvers3. Is battery capacity the only item of concern that affects range on an EV, or are there other components? Something that would affect range. Battery is probably the primary thing, and in a mass cell battery, remember that one cell can cause a decline in range, and it can be rapid. And the fundamental reason is the battery safety management systems in these EVs are designed to not allow overcharging a resistive cell. For obvious reasons, they catch on fire. So if you're seeing range decline based on age, that will be gradual. That would be a yearly decline. If you're seeing rapid monthly decline, that's going to be a resistive cell fix. TikTok question from WVMTN. What's your position on Nissan/Renault split and pulling out of the Russian market? Boy, I don't have too many opinions about the Nissan-Renault split because I don't know what the reasons for that are. But there are a lot of companies pulling out of Russia. You know, that poor country is going through some crazy times, and I'm not sure how they're going to emerge after all of this craziness stops. But if I had an office over there, I would be pulling out myself. It's not a safe place to continue to do business, and with some of the rash decisions that are being made there, including potential privatization of private industries if this gets much worse. All right, do we have any other final questions?
Nope, we're at 54 minutes, and if you want to wrap up and talk about next week and Zane coming in and all that.
Okay. Again, the picture behind me is Phoenix, Arizona, for those of you that joined us late. Beautiful place to live, and we'll be posting more of the images that I've taken over the years. A lot of people like the infrared images. We've got some really cool ones that we can post there as well. My co-host Bob will be replaced next week with a live human being, Zane. He's a placeholder currently, and as my wife pointed out, since he's my co-pilot, he's got on an aviator hat. But the real reason for that is, without the hat, the top of his head, and he's bald by the way, like I am. In fact, show you guys. There we go. I've got a delay there, so I'm not seeing me removing it yet. But the top of his head is so shiny that with the green screen behind me, it tends to key in, and his head begins to disappear in certain platforms. So we decided to put a hat on him. I'm pleased to report, though, that my next co-host next week, Zane, has lots of hair, so he's not going to have to wear the aviator cap. We have a podcast scheduled twice a week. We've got Tuesday mornings at 8:30 and Thursday mornings at 8:30. And somewhere in between those two podcasts, we try to create video content, and we encourage you to watch them on YouTube, Gruber Motors. We've always got some cool videos being posted. The next one is going to be actually some drone shots with a drone that's probably the size of this hat. And it is going to zip in between things, and we'll be able to showcase our new service center and really see what's going on behind the scenes. He's coming out Monday actually, and he's going to fly through a Tesla Roadster. I've got to see how that's going to work out, but that should be some cool shots. So we've got one final question from YouTube from Hunpuyai. He says, Ronaldo or Messi? I'm assuming he's talking about soccer, and I'm not really sure which one I'm going to root for. How about you guys? You guys have a preference?
Ronaldo all the way.
Ronaldo all the way. Okay, we're going to leave you with that. Again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for participating. These podcasts will morph into much more with better production quality as they continue. And we appreciate your inputs because it's your information that guides us as to what kind of content you would like to see and what's interesting. So again, thank you. We'll see you Tuesday morning next week. I wonder if this thing still fits me. It does. You know, I was using this in the Roadster when it would get cold in the winter because I like driving the Roadsters as convertible.